because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Go Track podcast. It's about golf and golf-related things, mainly from Africa. We've got a guest on the show today. I am joined by professional Sunshine Tour player Mike Hollick. Mike, thank you very much for giving us your time. I know that it's been a busy period for you, but thanks so much for joining us. How's everything going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Nick. Busy this week. Baby was born on Monday, yesterday morning. So yeah, it's been a busy 2 days. We got a 18-month-old at home, and mom is in the hospital now with the newborn. So it's been a busy couple of days.
So that's a very intense period you've got coming up in your life with a newborn and an 18-month-old. How the golf club's going to take a bit of a backseat.
No, they're going to have to make more money because there's a lot more bills to pay now.
Absolutely. I guess you started the payment quite nicely, winning the Sunshine Tour Championship the other day. Just talk me through that result. We were talking about it. We did a pod last week, and we were just mentioning how going into that final round, we might not have picked you to be a winner, but you you came back really nicely on the Sunday and won it. How was that going into that final round? How were you sort of feeling? What were the emotions like after that?
Yeah, I mean, it was good, but the Saturday I played, I was 5 under through the first 9 on Saturday and kind of got myself to the top of the leaderboard. And then the 10th hole there at Blair Athol's par 5, I missed like a 4-foot birdie putt, and then I 3-putted the next, and I kind of lost all that momentum where I realistically could have been like 7 under through 10 holes. So I knew the game was there, and when I walked off the course on Saturday, I'd shot 4 under 68, and my coach messaged me, Neil Cheetham, and he said, listen, I don't even want to talk about anything other than the spectacular golf that you played. So, I knew the game was there, and going into the final round, I knew that there was a score there for the taking. I was really good with my iron play the whole week, so there was that opportunity. And then Sunday happened, and I made 9 birdies, and it was just a great day.
When you're going into a final round, sort of chasing down the leaders, what is your approach like in that sort of situation, especially in such a big tournament like the Tour Championship?
I was the second to last group out, and obviously George Coetzee and Jacques Kruijswijk were behind me, and they're both phenomenal players, and they're winners on the European Tour. George I think he was 4 shots ahead of me going into that final round. I had to get the foot on the gas early. The first hole of the day it's a par 5 that plays like right down the hill, and I had a 7-iron for my second shot to like 8 foot, and the first tee shot for me, regardless if it's a Saturday afternoon with my mates or first round, fourth round, winning, playing well, playing badly, that first tee shot is just always intimidating and always gets the heart racing. So that first hole, you kind of want to just get going, and I had 2 phenomenal shots to about 8 foot, like I say, and I ended up making a birdie. I missed the eagle putt, but I got off to a nice start, and it kind of it settles you. And then I was 4 under quite early on, and then I thought, well, I'm now at the score that the leaders kind of started with, so it was just a matter of keeping the drop shots at bay and trying to make birdies.
Did you feel like the field you outran the field, or did the field sort of come back to you a little bit, or the top guys?
Yeah, I don't think anyone came back, because I mean George and Jacques both shot 3 and 4 under, or 3 and 5 under. So I mean around Blair, that's good golf. But, I shot 64 that final round with 9 birdies.
Yeah.
Unless I was miles behind, I was always going to be in the shout to win with a score like that.
Yeah, and I'm just looking sort of at your stats. It's a year tomorrow since your last win. So we've nearly hit that anniversary. So to go that amount of time without a win, going through that period of time, that year or just under a year, What was the mindset like? What was the sort of attitude like? Did you always feel like it was coming?
So I mean, winning twice this season was amazing because before I won Zim, which was our opening event to the Sunshine Tour
Mm.
for the 24-25 season, I hadn't won for like 8 years, and
Yeah,
our
like
last
2015.
event, yeah, and our last event of the season before that, I came second at Dainfern in the Players' Championship. I was really close to getting a win there and didn't quite get over the line. And then, as it was, the next event out was the Zim Open, and I won that. Yeah, to answer your question, a year wasn't really a long time. I had a good season. I played a lot of good golf. I had a couple of top five finishes, so I was knocking on the door. One of my goals for 2025 was to win another tournament. It was on the back of my mind, and it was something that I was trying to do. To get over the line was awesome.
And now, from a sort of going forward perspective, you won a couple of weeks ago. What sort of avenues does that open up for you now?
So I mean, there is the DP World Card uh, debacle that's going on. It looks like, in all likelihood, I'll pick up that third DP World Card because we're pretty sure Donnie van Tonder is going to get his card through the Hotel Planet Tour. He's currently leading the Order of Merit there, and he's going to go out and play some more events. So he can't really finish outside the top 20, I don't think. In terms of doors being opened, I've got the opportunity to go and play in Europe. And it's always been a lifelong goal to get out there
Mm.
and play on the international stage. I've been to Q School twice in Europe. It's always been somewhere where I've wanted to go and play. God willing, that door's going to be open from sort of November at the start of the new season.
Okay, that's awesome. I know that
Yeah,
I think circles, people, especially in Durban circles, know your sort of background and how
yeah.
difficult it got for you. Can you just give
Mhm.
us a bit of background as to those times when you
Yeah,
sort of saw the game and you thought that maybe this was the end of the road for you?
yeah. My first couple of years were really good coming onto the tour. I studied after school, went to university and got a degree. I only turned pro when I was 25, but my first tournament I played as a pro was Dimension Data, and I finished eighth, and I felt like it really settled me going into sort of the pro ranks with a nice finish in a big event like that. And for 3 or 4 years, it was kind of smooth sailing. I was always in the top sort of 40, 50 guys. I was always playing the co-sanction events. I was in the Investec Trophy, which was like the season-ending top 30 players on the ranking. It was smooth sailing for a long time, but then I had 4 years where I really, really, really struggled. I maybe had two top tens in 4 years. It was always more about making cuts. I was never in the position to win. Although I'd won in 2015, that form kind of just ran out after 6 months, and then I was back to being inconsistent and not playing well. And then just before COVID came, my wife and I we moved to Joburg because I said I'm either doing something completely different or I'm going to pack it in and I've got to go and find something else to do. So, we took the risk. We moved to Joburg. I started working with Neil Cheetham there. He's based at the Wanderers. He's an ex-tour player. He played on the European tour for 25 odd years. He's a great mentor. And we started working, and we worked through COVID. We had golf lessons on his veranda hitting into a net. And that's kind of where it all started. And then my wife had a procedure done in Joburg, and they ended up botching that a bit, and she had like paralysis in her left arm, and we decided to move back to Durban. And when we did that, it was kind of again like the golf it's been good and there's been progress, but we're not going to raise a family coming 60th and 70th on the rankings and just making cuts. And I started coaching at Mount Edgecombe, and I've been doing that for 2.5 years now. But I think that's been the biggest game changer for my golf, is not being just seen as Michael Hollick, professional golf player. You know, we've got other interests. We own a gym in Durban. You know, I've got my coaching side. My wife's a psychologist. She's got her practice. So we've got other interests. You know, taking a step back from the golf. 2 years ago, I played maybe 12 events on the schedule. Last year, I think I played about 14 or 15 events on the schedule. And I was pretty much playing part-time, but playing really well. I think I missed only 3 cuts in those 2 seasons playing part-time, and I would literally arrive at a tournament the day before, play 9 holes as a warm-up practice, and go and play, and it was working for me, and I did really well. And then, you know, like I say, I came second at Dane Fern, played really good golf, and then won the Zim Open. And then it's just been consistency since then, and sort of believing every week that I go out there that I can win, which is, you know, that's the mindset change that you have after you win.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's a bit of pressure off you now, given that you've got your coaching and you've got sort of an income from there, that like the focus isn't necessarily all on the golf?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the thing is with professional golfers, you know, we around traveling and we're paying for those costs, but you've still got your expenses at home. You've got your household expenses, your insurances, your medical aids. So you basically kind of looking after 2 sets of costs. And you know, with the coaching, I got to a stage where the coaching was really really busy, and I was making good money from it. And it, you know, it is tough. It gave me a real appreciation for being on tour and playing and being in the environment that we are week to week. You know, standing on the driving range in the sun, teaching people for 7, 8 hours a day is taxing, and it's not easy. So I think that really did sort of open my eyes to the other ways of making a living. And we've extremely blessed as professional golfers to travel and play these amazing courses we are, and getting to compete, because at the end of the day, professional golfers love to compete, and that's, for me, that's why I love playing tournament golf.
I always think about sort of the mental side for you guys, because it is an individual sport. It is you by yourself out there, and you're the only one that can sort of take the blame if you do badly, but you take all of the credit
Yeah.
when you do well. Mentally, when you were going through that really tough period, you knew that you had the ability.
Mm.
What do you feel was holding you back from a mental perspective?
So listen, I mean, with any professional sport, I mean, if you spoke to rugby players or cricketers or whoever it may be, the highs are very high, but the lows are extremely low. And I think with golf, you are at the bottom of the pit in those lows, because, you know, no one can save you, no one can help you. If you're in a team sport and you're having a bad run, you know, the guys around you can kind of carry you a bit. Whereas golf, the only thing that counts is the score. You know, everyone's got 2 arms, 2 legs, and they all competing. So at the end of the day, it comes down to belief. It doesn't matter how many people tell you you're great and you're unbelievable. I would play with friends and, you know, my dad's mates that I've grown up with, and we'd go play 9 holes and they'd say, geez, I can't believe you're not playing in Europe. Your swing's so good, you hit the ball so well. But unless you truly believe it in your heart, it's completely irrelevant.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter what a sports psychologist tells you, or, you know, your dad or whoever it may be. You're the only person that has to believe that. Honestly, that is the truth about it. You have to believe in yourself. That's the only way you can do well.
Yeah, it's an incredible sport, but it also seems like it is hugely taxing mentally and physically, I guess, when you think about all the long weeks and the months that you guys have on tour.
Mm.
But you mentioned your sort of part-time schedule.
Yeah.
Potentially with this DP World Tour card, I guess it's going to change that completely for you.
It will. I had a chat with Steve Cottingham the other day, who owns the driving range up at Mount Edgecombe. You know, because I think he was kind of trying to assess the situation and see if I'm coming or going, or, you know, what the story is up there. But I don't want to change too much in terms of the way I'm going about things. The coaching and the driving range, outside of the fact that it's an income generator for me, it's a good place for me to know that I have to be up there every single day.
Mm.
You know, like now at the moment we've got 4 weeks off on the Sunshine Tour. There'll be a lot of guys who are just resting and taking it easy for a couple of weeks because there's not really much on the go. Where I had a whole week coaching last week, And if I know I've got lessons, I'm going up there and I'm going to have gaps in between lessons, and I'm going to have 2 hours to kill, which kind of now allows me to practice. So, kind of not taking too much time off and not getting lazy. I think that's what working up at the driving range has also helped me with, is just making sure that I'm checking the boxes. I'm doing the stuff I need to do every day just to keep my game intact.
Yeah, yeah. And now looking forward, you said 4 weeks off now until the Sunshine Tour gets going again. But how excited are you for the new season, or have you not really focused on that too much?
Yeah, so we've actually got an awesome trip coming up on Sunday, and we're playing the it's called the DNI Chairman's Classic, and it's a pro am format. Ernie Els is like hosting it from the pros side, and then there's another 9 of us off the Order of Merit, the top guys on the Order of Merit. We are going to Leopard Creek Sunday night, Monday night, come back Tuesday. We play 4 rounds of golf, and DNI, along with RMB, have invited their biggest clients and guests and stuff. I
Okay.
suppose there's a lot of the top CEOs from around the country, um, and we all there for those 3 days. And I guess it's reward to the players for having a good season and being the sort of top of the bunch in terms of the Order of Merit, because we've got an awesome itinerary. I'm flying in Andrew Dunn's jet from Virginia Airport in Durban straight to Leopard Creek. So we on our own form of net jets here on the Sunshine Tour, which is pretty awesome.
Geez, the guys, you're going to get looked after pretty well then, I assume.
Yeah, I mean Leopard Creek's always a treat, and I've been fortunate enough to go there a lot, but I'm really excited to go there this time of year where it's not going to be 46 degrees like it was in December when we were playing there. I think it's going to be amazing. And then, Zim Open is our first event on the schedule in May. And yeah, I'm all booked and ready to go for that. And, obviously good memories from last year. I do like the golf course. And obviously coming off a good performance the last event. Yeah, I am looking forward to it.
You guys, the Sunshine Tour looks after you guys really well. From the outside, it looks like that's
Yeah.
the case. And how do you rate the Sunshine Tour in terms of looking after players, organization wise? It seems like it's really jacked up.
Yeah, since COVID happened, the tour has changed a hell of a lot, and I think COVID almost gave someone like Thomas Abt, who came in and took over from Selwyn Nathan in that commissioner position. I think it gave them the opportunity to rebrand and think of different and exciting ways to make the tour attractive. All of our prize funds have gone up, whereas for many years they kind of stayed the same. We've got a lot of new events. There's always new incentives. We've got a lot of partners on the tour that have offerings for the players. But I think the partnership with the DP World is I think it's quite important to the tour, because they also bring in an aspect of what the tour is like on an international scene outside of South Africa and Africa. We've got such good talent and such good players that play on the Sunshine Tour. So it really is a world-class tour, and I mean, there's obviously a reason why it's one of the premier tours of the world. So yeah, it is really, it's well run. We have good events. We play unbelievable golf courses. We're very lucky in South Africa that we have such good golf courses, and we're lucky that we have such a big tour that can travel around pretty much one country and host all these events and have these big championships and partner up with the DP World. I think outside of the I think it's the Australasian tour. Uh, yeah, all the other major tours don't just play in one country. Obviously, the PGA is predominantly in America, but America's 30 times what sort of South Africa is. So yeah, it's a very, very good tour, and it's very well run.
And then for a Durban boy to have the SA Open in Durban, obviously we know exactly what happened with that. But
Mm.
how great was that for you to be playing in the SA Open here at the Durban Country Club?
Yeah, it really was amazing. I grew up playing at Durban Country Club. My dad was a member there for 25 years. I played league for them. I represented them twice at the World Club Champs in South Korea. So Durban Country Club's always held a very special place in my heart. Durban, when it comes to a sporting event, the support is always amazing. You know, you think of Kings Park for rugby, there's always a good turnout. Golf is no different. Whenever we have a big golfing event in Durban, it's well supported. And, you know, I was playing with Lyle Rowe on the Saturday of that SA Open, and we had such a big following. And that whole golf course was just, it was a vibe. The hospitality section was pumping. Behind the 18th green was pumping. All the fairways were lined with people. It really was amazing. And it was just disappointing that the Sunday didn't kind of happen. I managed to play 8 holes and got rained off. But I think if Sunday had happened, it would have been a absolutely phenomenal day. The course was amazing. I never heard one person walk off and say they didn't like it. It's all positive stuff for Durban Country Club and obviously the future, because I believe they're going back into sort of the rotation system. So, you know, Durban Country Club should get the SA Open again in 5 years' time, which will be incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And just like as someone who's grown up playing it and seeing it in its new sort of iteration, how do you feel about the changes and has it added huge value to the course?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in Durban, we've typically never had great greens if you compare it to sort of George or Joburg. You know, even Cape Town's got pretty good greens. It's always been a bit of a thing about Durban is you can't have good greens. We've got Mount Edgecombe that's got great greens. We've now got Durban Country Club that's got phenomenal greens. I mean, everyone said after this Open, those greens were perfect. In terms of the changes, I think they're just kind of taking it back to what the course used to be like maybe 60, 70 years ago. It's got a very linksy feel. They've taken out a lot of the bush, so it's not as tight and intimidating as it once was, especially for amateur golfers. But like the SA Open proved, you know, you just throw the rough in, and all of a sudden you've got a beast of a golf course.
Yeah, it is a beast. I played in the Pro-Am on Tuesday, and it
Okay,
was the first time that I'd played it since it had been
changes.
redone, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I was a member there for a bit a few years ago, and when it was on its knees, and
Mm.
seeing it in that shape with those greens, I thought it was fantastic. But like I was there on Saturday, and I was watching you guys talk to me about the conditions. The wind blew a bit, which
Yeah.
seemed to be a bit of an issue for the guys.
Yeah, well, it had changed direction. So, I mean, there wasn't much wind the first 2 days, but it was the opposite
Mm,
direction. And it just gets you thinking. You know, a lot of the holes are, like I say, much wider than they used to be. But the fact that the rough was so brutal, I mean, I had a couple times literally just missed the fairway by a matter of inches, but you could only advance the ball 80, 90 meters because the rough was so thick.
yeah.
So it just shows, you know, you don't need length on a golf course. Durban Country Club's not a particularly long golf course. But if the wind is there, the rough is quite brutal, and the fairways are made a little narrower. You know, it's going to challenge anybody. The scoring on Saturday, no one went anywhere in terms of the scoring. So it's a good fair test of golf. It's got quality greens. I think the layout is great, and you know, when the SA Open comes there again, you know, the course will have settled down. They'll be able to make the greens sort of hard and fast, and it'll be a proper test. So yeah, I mean, it's only exciting stuff for Durban Country Club, and Durban itself needs a good Durban Country Club. It is such an attraction to golfers from around the country and all over the world. You know, standing on the second tee box at Durban Country Club, you'll know what it's like. You
Yeah.
don't get many better views than that anywhere in the world.
No, it's incredible. For you, just thinking about the winds, so like that northeaster blows and then the southwester blows. Which
Mm.
is there? Are they different for you guys in terms of how you approach the? Obviously, it's different direction, but in terms of, is there one that's
Yeah.
more difficult than the other?
Listen, I think the northeasterly is quite tough because typically if you're going off the first tee, you're playing those first 5 holes into the wind, and that literally
Mm,
will just make or break your round. You know, the northeaster, you get the last 6 holes downwind, but I don't think you gain that much advantage. Whereas when that southwesterly's pumping, it's brutal. Those last 6 holes are so tough into a strong wind. You know, you play that 18th hole off the new back tee, which, you know, with no wind, most of the guys will knock it on the green. But you get that southwesterly blowing and you're hitting it 30 meters short of the green. All of a sudden, that tee shot becomes a little bit tighter. You've got
mm,
the out of bounds on the right that comes in if you sort of faded because the wind's going to just keep pushing that fade, and you've got all that long grass up the left. If you tug it a bit, and it becomes a bit more of an intimidating shot. The course plays very differently with both winds. But I think, when that southwester blows and you're coming home into the wind the last 6 holes, you've got to be on your game. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Mike, I just wanted to. So we're just going to look at golf, the professional game,
Yeah.
just in general. Not to get too into the weeds on the whole situation, but sort of from
Mm.
your perspective, I guess looking up at the PGA Tour and everything that's going on with those guys. What is the sort of word on the ground for you guys? Are you guys quite happy with the situation as it is at the moment? Does it not affect you guys at all, really?
I don't think it does affect us too much. What happens with Live and PGA and whatever, that's their business. There's so many different sort of loopholes and criterias for certain players and for certain tours, and for us directly, I don't think the impact is really on us at all. You hear so many rumors of things that are said in the media, but I think a lot of it is just news. People are trying to be relevant, and they're trying to attract attention on X or Instagram or whatever it is. To be honest, I don't know much about what's going on there. I saw there was an interview with Brooks the other day, and he kind of said stories that the news are writing about. I don't even know this stuff, and apparently it's about me. I don't think there's too much going on. Yeah, from the guys that I spoke to at SA Open and stuff like that, it doesn't seem like anything's going to happen there.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you. Obviously, we had a couple of the live guys there.
Mm.
Were they pretty quiet on any sort of news or anything?
Yeah, I mean, chat to Burmy and asked him a few things, but yeah, I don't even think the players really. I don't think they really know, and to be honest, I don't think they care too much for what's going on. They playing their tour. That's where they wanted to go play. They're earning good money from what they say. They all enjoy it. So I think the guys are happy where they are. They made that decision. That's where they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And then now, sort of looking forward, let's hypothetically say that you're going to be playing on the DP World Tour.
Yeah.
From an event perspective, what sort of stands out for you as sort of events that you would be really looking forward to playing in?
So I'll get into the Alfred Daniel Links Championship, which is, I mean, that's always
Yeah.
a premier event. They've got some of the world's best players play there. There's obviously high-end celebrities, actors, business people. I think it's just awesome, and you're playing sort of the best of the best links courses in Scotland. So yeah, first and foremost, that's definitely one tournament that I really am looking forward to. I don't know with the card that I'll get, I don't know what events I would get into. So, I'll only find that out come the end of the season once Donnie's sort of done his business, if he definitely does get that card through the Challenge Tour or the Hotel Planner Tour now. But yeah, I'm not too sure in terms of the intricacies
Okay.
of it and what it all kind of leads up to.
Okay. And then just from a Sunshine Tour perspective, there are so many great players
Mm.
on the Sunshine Tour. Do you think that is there any sort of frustration for the guys? Do you think that our sort of qualification criteria to get into the DP World Tour is too stringent, is too lenient? Do you think that it's the right way of going about things?
I think the hardest thing for the South African guys is obviously the cost to play Q school in Europe.
Mm,
The entry fee is a hell of a lot for South Africans. When we're converting the rand, and also the South Africans they like home. They like being in South Africa. There's not many guys that want to go and live abroad or sort of base themselves in Europe. I think we're used to a way of life. We've got our circles, we live in our bubbles, and I think people are happy like that. It is extremely difficult to get onto the DP World Tour straight from the Sunshine Tour. We've
mm,
obviously got the opportunity to win those co-sanction events, that will get you a card. And now, obviously, the way that we can do it through the order of merit. But having to go to Q school and stuff, I guess any tour has the same procedure. You have to just grind away and do it. That's the only way you're going to do it. I
mm.
guess that's why there's such a small percentage of really successful tour pros, you know, around the world. It's a
Yeah.
cutthroat industry. The top golfers earn a hell of a lot, but they're the best in the business. Golf is not for everyone, and it is not the easiest way to make a living. That's for sure.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's incredible to see how guys have to sort of stick it out for so many years, and there's got to be a
No,
hell of a
it's
lot of
brutal.
self belief. I think is probably the right way of looking at it.
It is, and it's there's times in life where opportunities arise, and if you don't take them, it might have been your one life-changing opportunity, and you didn't take it, and it passes you by. And there are so many good players, like you say. I mean, you think of a guy like Jean Hugo, who has been, sure, I mean, I don't even know how many tournaments he's won. It's ridiculous. I mean, he's had a 25-year career on the Sunshine Tour, being probably in the top 20 for 90% of that time. He could have had an equally successful career in Europe had sort of things fallen in place for him, or he may have had opportunities that sort of passed him by. And that's the brutal thing with golf. It really is. I mean, this might be my opportunity now getting this TP World card. But had I not won last
Mm.
week, I would have finished maybe 15th on the order merit, and it doesn't really mean anything. You just tee it up again in May, and off you go, and nothing really changes. So yeah, it's tough, and I guess it's the nature of professional sport and professional golf.
Just looking back from your win in Zim to your win the other day, do you feel like this is the best period of professional golf that you've ever had?
Without a doubt, yeah. Like when we played that Danefern Players Championship, I was 28 under and came second. Heinrich Brainers won it at 29 under. Never in my wildest dreams would have thought I could go 28 under par, and then go forward a month, and won the Zim Open. Again, I was 18 under par. I think before that, 16 under is the lowest score they've ever had in the Zim Open. And I've had a lot of rounds in tournaments shooting 60s, and the last 2 years it's been amazing for me, obviously in terms of performance, but just I think growth as a golfer, and belief, and actually accepting that you can actually shoot 62 or 63 in a tournament. It can be done. I think it's like getting that monkey off your back, I guess.
Well, Mike, so this pod will probably drop after the Masters, but let's
But,
just talk a little bit about Augusta.
mm,
What you're expecting. So this is now you looking back next week. So we're gonna have some receipts. So Mike, let's just look at who's going to be the best South African. Do you think there are only three in the field?
yeah,
Charles, Tristan Lawrence, and I'm not sure. I can't remember who the third
Christian
is now.
Besaidenout. Christian
Christian Bezuidenhout.
Besaidenout.
Who do you think will be the best played South African?
I mean, it's a tough one because Tristan was obviously so hot for so long. For the last 2 seasons, he's been unbelievable. But, going to Augusta for the first time is not easy. Bez has been there. He's got a phenomenal short game. His putting I think he's in the top three putters on the PGA Tour. So I would fancy him. He came second at Live last week. He's played there so many times. So I've picked Charles in my golf champs. But
Okay,
I've got a feeling Christian Besaidenout. I think he'll be the best South African.
okay. And obviously to win it, who do you think's going to win it? Give us your top three, and sort of why.
Rory's my first pick. I think listening to him over the last couple of years since this whole live thing has happened, he seems to have, I don't want to say matured because he's been mature for a long time, but I think he's kind of left all the talk and all of that stuff at the door. And I think his priority now and main focus is just playing. He obviously played bloody well at the Players to win that. I think his time is. It's got to be soon. He's had
Mm.
so many good finishes there. He won the Players last week. I just think he's ready to now win that tournament. So he's my first pick. I think that Joachim Niemann from the Live Tour, he's incredible. The way he's played the last 2 years has also been unbelievable. I think if he was getting world ranking points or playing on the PGA and wasn't on Live, he would certainly be in the top three in the world. So I've backed him as well. I think he will be one that can win. He's an unbelievable ball striker. His strokes gained stats are phenomenal. And then I think Colin Morikawa, he's also tee to green. He is unbelievable. And the one stat that I actually saw Chris Porter was putting out earlier was the winners that come out at the Masters. They are the guys who are in the top 5 percentile in strokes gained tee to green. So you've got to be a good putter, but you've got to be able to hit your ball into the right places. So Rory, Joaquim Niemann, Colin Morikawa, those are my three for the Masters.
Okay, I like that. I like that. No Scotty Scheffler though.
Listen, it's hard to count him out, but I've looked into all the strokes gained stats, and this season he has not been very good. He's
Yeah.
way down on the birdie count, and his putting stats this season are also way down. So I don't think it's going to be the week for him at the Masters. Listen, he'll probably prove me wrong because he is that good, but yeah, I just don't. I just don't. I think it's Rory's time. I really do.
Well, yeah, you've heard it here first from Mike Hollick. So he's
Mm.
got Rory McIlroy, Joaquin Niemann, Colin Morikawa in the top three. We'll be able to see in a week's time whether he's right or not. But Mike, thank you so
Yeah,
much for joining us on the Go Track.
thank you,
Really,
man.
really appreciate your time and all the very best for the preseason. And we'll be watching
Thank you.
very closely what happens in the new season.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It was a great chat.